Life isn't perfect, and neither are we.
Nope. But we know how to face our fears
And have some fun.
and talk about all the messiest things of life.
Like the messiest things.
Get connected to yourself, get connected to others, and get connected to the life right in front of you.
This is The Connected Life with Justin and Abby.
That's me.
That's you.
And you. Spit happens.
I don't... Okay, first off, saying spit happens.
Sounds so dirty.
Well, with the Haktua girl out there.
Oh, it's so bad. I was just looking at your llama socks. Then the llama is spitting and they say spit happens. And I thought that was a funny sock.
You got me these llama socks.
Yeah, because I thought it was a funny saying. Yeah, but now that I hear what it sounds like. Oh, man.
Oh, man. Hey.
Okay.
Hey, welcome to The Connected Life.
Yeah.
If you haven't been here before, you're in for a bumpy ride.
Yeah, I'm really excited about today's episode. We did it very different than we've ever done an episode before, which is we came up with the concept and then we both went separately to think about our answers.
Imagine like a boxing ring and you go to separate corners.
And we both came up with our own. I'm wondering if you did this the right way because you keep thinking that it's going to create chaos. And I keep thinking it's going to be one of the most healing conversations.
I'm being playful about chaos, but also I think it can. And I think this is a great way to start. I want to have this conversation real quick. Okay. Okay. So we're going to get into a dialogue about dysregulation.
In relationships
and stuff. And I noticed that as we've been working towards this episode, I have had a block, an internal block. and I'm like, what is my internal block? Like, why can't I get my half of stuff? And I'm like, because this is going to turn into a fight.
You actually have fear of it creating chaos.
An aspect inside of me is braced. Now,
the funny thing, can I just say what the concept is? We have realized we spent years in our marriage fighting and working and trying really hard to figure out what was causing, like to find resolve for the issues that we kept going after round after round after round. And we didn't know there was one thing that would change our relationship and would change it in a dramatic way and would change conflict and there was one conflict disruptor. And it was learning about the nervous system, learning about understanding how to regulate. And that affected everything in our conflicts. And so I was like, well, let's do an episode where I go to my side and think about all the ways that my dysregulation contributed to our conflict mess. And you can go to yours so that we can actually help people understand how the nervous system and understanding it does impact all of your relationship issues. Because if you learn to understand what your body, emotion, nervous system connection is and how it's impacting your reactions and how you show up, then you actually can get the tools to change the thing inside of you that is creating the most havoc in your relationships.
Yeah. So I think that it's going to be a good episode in that. I think that this is something that people are hesitant about. So what you and I are both talking about is taking ownership, right? And when we engage in relationships that we've had longer term and you begin to reflect and take ownership on areas where you've perpetuated pain or participated in co-creating that pain, it's very easy for the other person in the partner to feel a lot of strong emotions. So validation is actually a really scary experience sometimes for some people because sometimes it can land really well and people are like, I needed to hear that. Other times people are like, screw you. Yes, you did that. And it feels like it opens up a whole other bag of problems. And here's something that I want to say to people who are hesitant to participate in, say, an exchange like this, is that the long-term benefits are worth it. You may have the disruption in the beginning as people feel validated and they're like, yeah, you should do that. It didn't hurt me. Let me tell you why I'm angry. Like you may be hit with some of those things, but realistically, the more that you can take ownership and and recognize like what is the pain that is, that actually begins to restore the nervous system inside of a relationship. And we're going to get into talking about that as maybe one of the aspects of how the nervous system gets repaired in a relationship.
Yeah. Well, I feel only hope. So I'll hold my hope. You hold your fear.
I don't have only fear. I don't have only fear. I have tons of hope. I feel good about it. But I'm being honest about the part of me that braced coming up to this. It was like, and here's the benefit though. Here's the good thing.
I felt like this is going to be great because I think you're going to feel good with the things that I validate. And I think I'm going to feel good with the things you validate.
But that's the thing. If I don't validate enough, I'm like, you better come up with some good validations here. but the benefit is that we're on a very connected playing field right now. Mm-hmm. Last night, we had a really good conversation where there was a lot of validation and attunement that was taking place as we were sitting on the back porch and I was having a cigar and you were just being vulnerable. And
then we had good makeup sex after that.
Yeah.
So we're in a good spot.
Does that mean we could have more makeup sex today?
Sure.
All right.
We make it through this. We can do anything.
Oh, man. I'm so excited about this episode. Let's get it underway.
Okay. So one thing that I want to start with is it took me a long time to learn about the nervous system and understand what it actually does. But it's kind of like the command center for our entire being. It's the center of the human experience. The nervous system is the center of human experience. Rachel always says that. I want to give her credit for that.
Good.
Yeah.
Credit to Rachel.
And so basically our nervous system is taking in cues through our 5 senses. So what we see, hear, smell, taste, feel, all of those senses, we're taking in cues all the time of our surroundings and our environment and our interactions. And our brain is scanning constantly for threats, our brain and body. And so
like for instance, Justin was scanning for threats going into this podcast.
100%. And this is a natural thing that happens inside of any relationship, which is why conflict gets complicated, because I'm subconsciously, not even wanting to, I'm unconsciously watching all of your behavior when we're in a conflict to see if you make a facial expression that looks threatening or like you're disinterested or like you're frustrated or like you're sad. Like I'm looking at your expressions. I'm looking at
reading body language,
to your tone. I am paying attention to every cue you're giving me. And then anytime that I think it could be a threat, my body reacts without me telling it to. My nervous system sends a response where my body goes into a reaction to protect myself from the threat I've just witnessed. And that all happens so fast. It's autonomic. It happens without us choosing. So now I can have fight or flight or freeze start to happen inside of me without even knowing or recognizing that it happened, without even knowing or recognizing why it happened. And that means that then I start to protect myself. And then typically this is where the bad dance happens. I notice a threat. I protect myself. You notice I'm protecting myself, which is a threat to you. You protect yourself. That feels threatening to me. I protect. And then now we are just battling each other's self-protective mechanisms. We're both defensive, or we're both feeling misunderstood, or we're both getting louder to be heard, whatever your cycle is, or we're both avoiding, or we're both accusing or blaming. Whatever it is that you do to protect yourself, you start to get in a bad dance as soon as a threat is involved.
Yeah, our one of our counselors, Barry, he introduced us to the conversation about the bad dance, and really recognizing in relationships is so key. Like, what is our bad dance that we get inside of? Not realize, like, what is that thing that all of a sudden we get hooked and we both get pulled into this spiral where we're going back and forth, and we're like, every time we touch that space, we tip over into these reactions, and then we logically go offline. Like you said, it's an autonomic response. I'm logically offline. I'm in survival responses, and they have hijacked my ship. And so many times, we walked away from fights. I know that for me, I'd walk away from exchanges where I'm like, I feel horrible. I did things that I never would do in my logical brain. Why did I do that? What is wrong with me? All of a sudden, something took over. And I think a lot of people can relate to that, whether that's shutting down, whether that's getting loud, whether that's, whatever.
Yeah, it's really true. And it can feel really out of control to all of a sudden be like, I thought we were headed here and now we've ended up somewhere entirely different.
Yeah. How did this day spiral out of control? How did this moment spiral out of control?
And one thing that I think, a couple other things I want to just say about the nervous system before we jump into how it impacted us is when you are in a relationship, both people have a nervous system. So that's like all the nerves are all connected to our five senses, our threat system. So we're either in a state of self-protection, fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, or we're regulated. And then sometimes we can be a mixture of both. It's kind of like a scale. It's not like, oh, now I'm in fight. It could be like I'm moving towards fight. I'm in a little bit of fight.
And now fight has won over.
In fight. Yes.
Yeah.
And so the interesting thing about relationships is your nervous system will impact mine and mine will impact yours. And that is a truth that is not fightable. Like, it's not like, oh, you're being codependent if my nervous system impacts yours, or you're just being too needy if my nervous system impacts yours. It's like, no, we know scientifically that two humans in a relationship that are around each other, their nervous systems impact each other. So if I am dysregulated, it is very easy that can pull you towards dysregulation. If you're dysregulated, it's very easy that it can pull me towards dysregulation. And so when we think about relationship, instead of being like, how do I control you to make me feel safe? For me, a lot of it is, how do I stay regulated and contribute regulation to our relationship?
Well, could you describe for someone who isn't like connected to the word regulated or dysregulated, what might that feel like inside of their body? How would they have signs of those two things?
Yeah. So when I'm regulated, I'm at peace inside my body. So I'm not fighting scary emotion. Like, I'm not fighting anxiety. I'm not fighting back fear. I am present.
Anger. You might not. Yeah.
I'm not fighting back anger. Like, when I'm regulated, I feel my executive function is fully online. So there's two parts of our brain. One is the amygdala, which is the emotion reaction system, and one is your executive function. And that is where you can think logically and understand. So when I'm in my executive function, I can have compassion for other people. This is a great way to know, are you regulated? Can I have compassion for the person across from me and understand what they might be experiencing? So when I'm in a conflict with you, if I'm only stuck on what is going on in me and I can't even imagine a world to have compassion on you
or empathize,
then I am dysregulated. A lot of times speed can help me know how regulated I am. So when I'm regulated, I can go at a normal pace. It doesn't have to be fast and it doesn't have to be slow. It's like medium pace. When I'm dysregulated, I want to talk fast. I want to cut off. I want to get through it. Yeah. But it's a quick pace, or it's a completely non-existent pace. Like freeze is a pace. You've had that a lot where nothing's happening.
Yeah. I can't get anything out whatsoever.
Yeah. And so regulation to me has a lot to do with the pace that I can feel things, how fast I'm thinking. It's not just how am I acting on the outside, it's how am I on the inside? How fast are my thoughts happening? Another thing would be that I feel like open to relationship and want to connect more than self-protective. That's regulated. I think, are there things you would add in?
Yeah. One a word that's really good that would, I think, for people kind of like help them highlight regulated is overwhelm, or dysregulated is overwhelm. Like, do I feel overwhelmed?
Yeah.
Am I feeling emotions of powerlessness? Like, I can't get what I need. Usually there's a lot of dysregulation that starts happening inside of powerlessness or overwhelm. I
want to just mention that because dysregulation happens way before overwhelm. And so in a lot of conversations I have with couples, I'll say, well, it feels like you might be dysregulated right now. And they're like, no, I'm not. and That's because they only imagine dysregulation as when you're fully in fight or flight, or you're fully in overwhelm. And that is a part of it. That is the extreme, or not the extreme, but that's the full end of it. Dysregulation happens often at a much smaller pace. Like, you notice that I get dysregulated when I start shaking my body, and I'm often not overwhelmed internally at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or so there's like little cues that we can have. Like, I think possibly you might have just gotten dysregulated right now.
How so?
Did you?
No.
Did you have emotions come up when I said it's not always overwhelm?
No.
No.
I was like, okay.
Okay, great.
I'm just saying overwhelm is a cue for me that
It's
I
a
know
cue.
that I'm
That's
for
when
sure
you know you're in.
I know for sure I'm dysregulated once I hit overwhelm, or I have a feeling of powerlessness. I'm like, I know I'm down the road of dysregulation. Now, what all you're saying is that it can happen well before that.
Yes.
I'm saying these are telltale signs that, like, if you've hit that point, you're for sure got dysregulation at that point.
100%.
Yeah.
So for me, regulated is like when I feel good in life, or when I'm not overwhelmed by things, or if you kind of think about you lying on a beach and the waves are crashing in and the sun is gently over you, the feelings that you might have, often that could be a way to be like, that's a regulated version of you, where you feel at calm and at peace. And some people out there are like, I'm never regulated.
Yeah.
I'm never, ever, ever. And that's something that you can actually learn. You can learn how to become safe in your body. And we're doing a live course about this January specifically, because it is something to learn, how to be safe and feel good in your body, how to nurture your nervous system, take care of it so that you can build emotional resilience and learn how to be regulated. But the point of this conversation is to just talk about how regulation has affected.
Yeah. I do want to say that for a lot of people, this conversation, you may think like, I'm never dysregulated. That's probably a telltale sign that you're not self-aware.
Yeah.
That you aren't connected into your body or your emotions, or both. Like, some level of dissociation has happened there.
Yeah.
Once you actually do connect it to your emotions in your body, you're like, oh shit, like I'm dysregulated quite often, actually, inside of, and you'll see it. Like, it's very easy. Most people are dysregulated when they're interacting with social media.
Oh, yes.
That
is a great example.
That quick response when all of a sudden you see something that you read an article and you're like, I have to post on this, or somebody said something on one of your posts and you're like, I just can't get it out of my head. I have to respond. You've gone into a dysregulated place inside of yourself, and you are in reaction versus response. That's another way I think that's also telltale sign. Am I responding in a way that I am being deliberate about and calculated about, that aligns with my value system?
Right.
If I have been hijacked and I'm like, oh, why the hell did I do that? I was like, okay, I got very dysregulated.
That's a
my
great
nervous
example.
system got disrupted, and I got hijacked and left my body, and then came back, and it was like, how do I clean up the mess?
Well, I love what you're saying. If you're doing something that is different than your core values, you're dysregulated. Your body is reacting beyond what your logic can do. And our goal is to be able to get our body and our logic in a good connection. But you have to actually learn how to do that. And so one of the things, just to make it a less vague concept, for me and Justin, we've spent a lot of time learning how to heal our nervous system. So our nervous system is a pattern of experiences in our bodies. So we got stuck living in fight or flight or freeze or fawn. We got stuck in those patterns. So our body would get stuck in a certain level of stress. And we've actually had to learn how to soothe our nervous system, how to do things that help regulate our body, help our mind and our body get to a connected place where they feel safe and calm. And a lot of it is about learning safety, learning how to recognize safety, learning how to feel safe, learning how to feel good in your body. There's an art to it. You can actually learn how to feel good inside of your body. I was not taught how to do that, but you can actually do it. That's why we're teaching it in January. You should come join the course. But the idea is instead of focusing, we actually took time where we stopped doing marriage counseling and we worked just on regulating our nervous systems.
Because marriage counseling wasn't really doing any good because you wouldn't submit to it.
Well, and that is so funny. The funny thing is, marriage counseling wasn't working for us when we were both stuck in dysregulation, and when we were both bringing such dysregulation cycles to each other. There wasn't a way to reconnect without healing our nervous system.
It's true.
And so when we separated and started doing the work for our nervous system, it completely changed our marriage.
Yeah, because what would happen is when we do marriage counseling with the dysregulated nervous systems, there would be elevated, like we
just make
immediately,
things worse.
We're all of a sudden at a level 10, see, you always do this. And a lot of couples experience that actually in couples counseling is all of a sudden, and that's why a lot of times people are like, I'm avoiding marriage counseling.
Totally.
Because this shit explodes.
Because it seems like it just gets worse.
Correct. Because there's not the ability to manage the nervous system and then to have the whole healthy conversation in that place. So I think that, like you were saying, I think that in January here, as you teach on the, just as a side note, as you teach on the nervous system, that for a lot of couples, this is going to be a profound thing for them, because if you can get what you need out of the nervous system and get balance in that and manage that within you, then you can go begin to deal with your partnerships that you have in your life.
Oh, it's changed all my relationships. All my relationships are easier the more regulated I've become, because I'm safer. When I am regulated, I feel safer to the people around me, and people mirror each other. So when I'm more regulated, you are more likely to be regulated around me, and vice versa. And I've seen a lot of couples do this. It gets really, really hard with each other, and they keep trying to fight the battle with each other. And they keep doing the rounds of conflict and the rounds of blame and the rounds of, if they would change, I would feel fine. And I really wish I could help people be like, separate and both work just on regulating your nervous system.
Yeah.
Repattern your stress response. Learn how your mind is connected to your nervous system and your physical body sensations. Learn how to get connected to yourself and safety. And then when you come back, you have something to offer each other.
Yeah, it's really good. Well, I know that you wanted to do, so you want to do the portion where we have a talk about how we impacted each other with our dysregulation. I want to talk at some point about a few things that I did to regulate.
Oh, great. Go ahead. Start there.
What?
With the things you did to regulate.
Oh, no, on the back end.
Oh. Okay.
I thought it'd be great to start with us exchanging.
Okay.
So
8 years ago, my life completely shattered. I went through about 25 traumatic situations that happened right after each other. And the pain from that, along with the pain from my childhood that wasn't healed, overwhelmed and engulfed me. It actually broke me. It broke my mind. It broke my heart. And then that broke my body. I became so sick for a few years. And I had to go on the journey of learning how to heal. I went on the process of having to learn how to reclaim myself. It was like I was broken in 1,000 pieces on the ground, and I had to go back and find out how to scoop up each piece and bring them back to me. The only way that I learned how to heal was learning about the nervous system, our emotions, and our body and how they connect to each other. I didn't understand what our mind and our body and nervous system does in pain and in stress, and how we actually hold and carry memories inside of our body. If we don't learn how to retrain our nervous system, we will recreate the patterns that we've lived in, the patterns of stress and chaos. They will just keep happening. If we don't learn how to move the emotions out of our body, they'll stay trapped inside of our body, causing us panic and fear and shutdown. And then, of course, learning our emotions. I spent years trying to manage my emotions, but without understanding how our body works, you can never have a healthy relationship with your emotions. So we created a course this year that I am so excited about. It's 8 years worth of my own personal healing process, plus all of the trauma, research, and understanding that I've had, and all of the healing that I've been able to walk others throughout this process. It's called Reclaiming You, and it will help you create a healthy relationship with your body, your nervous system, and emotions. It's going to help you find your resilience again so that you can face life with hope and joy and actually feel relaxed and feel good in your body and feel safe in your own skin again. And we want to invite you to join us for this experience this January.
Yeah. And also, for those of you who are just joining us, we've been in the emotional health field for 15 years now. We've had over 4,000 clients, and we've had over 10,000 people take our courses. And the cool thing is that in that whole process, we've actually had thousands of people tell us that taking our courses has radically transformed their lives, their relationships. And the reality is, it's not just because of the information, it's because of the community aspect. And that's what's so cool and unique about Reclaiming You. It's 14 weeks of live community experience that you're going to have when you join us for that. So we're excited about it. Come join us. You can go to justinabby.com/reclaimingyou. And October 28th is when that'll be available on our website. And then January 11th, 2025 is when the course kicks off. And it's going to be a cool way to start the year off. So come join us.
Yeah, join a healing community where you get to connect to love now, not when you're fixed. Love now.
Love now.
Well, I want to start with something. I'll start the conversation.
Okay.
So one thing that I think really impacted our marriage is not understanding the body sensations that were going on inside of me and my nervous system state. So once a trigger got opened for me and my body would go into that self-protection, fight or flight, for me, it often was fight. Once I was in that state, you could apologize and you could validate, and I wouldn't necessarily be able to regulate in that moment because I was stuck in my protection response. Your face.
I'm just listening.
And so I was stuck in the protection response. And so you would apologize and it wouldn't feel resolved to me. I wouldn't feel resolved because I hadn't actually come back down to being regulated and present and safe in my body. And what I didn't understand is regulation can take some time. And so I was waiting to feel relief in my body from your apology.
Right. You thought that
if you apologize in a way that helps me, like that you got it. If you apologize well enough, then I'll feel safe again and I'll feel better. And then it will relieve the physical stress I'm feeling from the conflict. Mm-hmm. What I didn't realize is that, and oftentimes apologies help. I would say when there's a sincere apology and I can feel you regulated with it, it brings me down a level. But now I don't expect that it'll bring me all the way back down to neutral, because I know that it takes my body some time. And so now, like this happened yesterday and a couple, actually with another friend that I had conflict with the other day, we talked through things and I was like, logically, we've both apologized. I feel good. If I keep talking now, I'll actually kick up another fight, because the thing that doesn't feel resolved in me is just a body sensation that I need to walk away and get all the way back down to zero before continuing talking this. And so not only would sometimes it not land for me, sometimes I would kick back another fight because I was looking for the body sensation of relief and we hadn't gotten there. And sometimes I have to walk away to get back to relief. And then I can still feel good with us. But I didn't understand that. And so now that I know with regulation that it's not an immediate drop from threat to safety, it takes your nervous system some time to come to unwind. That has really impacted how I view what is happening between us. What are your thoughts when I say that?
It's good information. I'm on the fly trying to process. Like, I appreciate the part of the part where you're acknowledging, like, so we had a battle about apologies, and that's been a strong battle inside of our relationship. And for many reasons on both sides of us, one of the things that I've said is that no matter what I do in an apology, it doesn't feel like it's enough. I had historically, with that said, my apologies came in a dysregulated state as well. So I'm like, I'm sorry. I told you I'm fucking sorry. There was some of those.
Yep.
Right. There were also those that I'm like, or just those where I'm just like, yeah, I'm sorry. I did this wrong. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. And I'm battling all kinds of stuff inside of me. I'm battling over a hurdle to even get I'm sorry out. And I mean that I'm sorry, but I'm not settled in a place of peace. There's that. Then
you're not regulated would be the thing.
Correct.
Yeah.
But and then there was genuine apologies that I do all the work and it just didn't matter.
It didn't work. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't landing. And I think the part where you're acknowledging, like, no, there's areas where I wanted you to get to a certain place so that I can make this thing go away inside of me. And you acknowledging, like, you put that, an aspect of that on me, a burden on me to carry that wasn't mine to carry.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sitting here being like, yeah, I mean, it's not all you or all me. It's the nuance of both of us. And so, yeah, I can really appreciate that.
Yeah. I think that, it makes sense because in my body experience, I don't feel resolve.
Yeah.
And so my logic is like, there's not enough resolve yet. And I was trying the best that I could.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that I was contributing that. And I do want to say, like, this changed our relationship dramatically is when we made the standard of an apology needs to be in a regulated moment.
Yeah.
That changed.
Settle yourself inside of your being. And if you can't be regulated, then communicate, like, hey, I want to have a conversation around this. I want to revisit this. It matters to me that we get repair. I'm going to come back when I have the capacity to do that.
Yeah. Because I mean, and that's another example of how regulation dramatically changed our conflict, is because just that standard, I now have a felt sense of safety and connection when you're apologizing. Before, dysregulation means you're trying to say a safe thing, but my five senses, which is my nervous system, is picking up all of the threats of you being dysregulated.
Right.
And so I'm logically trying to say, here, your safety, while my body is saying this isn't safe.
Right.
And that conflict is not something that I should bully my nervous system to believe the safety or throw out my logic to believe it's not safe. Like, the goal is to get it all to work together.
Cohesive.
Yes. And so that's why it really helped when you learned, like, when we set that as a standard for both of us.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to regulation and dysregulation, one of the things that I brought to the table was I'd bring anxiety and anxiety and tone.
Yeah.
To the experiences. So, and it's not just in our personal, it's just like life stuff. Like, I may look at time frames or schedules or creating plans or needing to accomplish something, and my road to getting there, there's a lot of times where I felt very out of control with certain ways that maybe your learning disabilities showed up.
Totally.
Right?
Yep.
I didn't know you had them.
Yep.
I thought you were purposely
destroying your life.
And so my response was to have this emotion swell that would go on inside of me. And it would spill out. Now, it wouldn't spill out to the reality or the intensity at times. I'm not saying it never did. I'm saying most of the time it wasn't spilling out to the reality of how intense it was inside.
On the inside.
Right.
So what you're saying is your body is building a sensation of anxiety. I like to say emotion is energy in motion. So you have an energy that is building up inside of you with
Correct.
whatever life circumstance or relational thing is happening where there's anxiety.
Yep. And then all of a sudden it would come out, but it would come out in ways that I thought was being well managed. But it wasn't so fun. It came out in tonnage.
Yep.
It came out in an expression of frustration. Like, we need to get this done.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, let's move this forward.
Mm-hmm.
Why are we not doing this? What is going on? Why are you in there?
Mm-hmm.
You know, but what and you're like, why are you being so intense? I'm like, I'm not being intense.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, intense is this ferocious lion inside of me that wants to come out. And it is not. It is caged. It is completely caged. I am going into the other room to deal with the tiger or the lion that's inside of me, you know, right now. But I also experienced anxiety in my childhood that I would say was on a scale that was a whole other scale, 10 times bigger. And this is for a lot of people. They will come out of an environment in their home, and I want to highlight this. They'll come out of an environment in their home that is like a level 10. They find themselves at a level 2, but their level 2 is actually a level 10 for someone else,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you don't know. You're like, I'm not being intense.
Yeah.
For years, I communicated I'm not being intense. I communicated that my dysregulation was not intense.
Uh-huh.
And it was true to my scale.
Mm-hmm.
It was true to my scale.
Yes.
I was not being intense.
You were not 100, you were 50.
Right. But to me, I was very tame.
And I'm thinking 50 is overwhelming.
Yeah. 50 to you was 150
Yep.
to you, actually. And you're
Yeah.
like, why are you so intense? Right.
Yeah.
And
I love the example you gave of like having a roaring lion inside
Yeah.
your chest, because what happens is the people we're around can actually feel that energy. And I think that for a long time, I believed people couldn't feel that energy. And so as long as I just managed the energy, shoved it down and presented different on the front, that it'd be fine. And when I learned I need to regulate my nervous system, it was like, no, I actually need to go calm the lion that's raging, make it a little kitty cat
yeah.
that's purring inside of me, and come back and interact with the world with the purring kitty cat.
Yeah. And so then I would have this energy, this dysregulated energy that was inside of me. Okay, whether or not it came out, it may not come out. It's just, I might go into complete quietness.
Uh-huh.
Right. And you're like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, nothing. I'm fine. Like, I'm not doing anything wrong.
Yeah, you'd say that all the time.
And I'm not. Like, I'm hitting all the checklist of like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm minding my P's and Q's. I'm not saying anything bad.
Yeah.
I'm managing myself well.
Yeah.
And you're like, what is wrong with you? And then I'm like, nothing is wrong with me. You're like, I knew something was wrong with you.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, now it is, because you wouldn't leave me alone. But like what you were saying is, and you didn't have words to articulate this.
Totally.
I sense that you're dysregulated.
Mm-hmm.
I sense that you're carrying an energy that doesn't make sense to me.
Yes.
And I don't know what that energy is going to do.
100%. Yeah, it feels very true. And that energy is the exact same energy that does happen when you'd explode. And so my nervous system is sensing all of these things, and it is clenching up and it is afraid, and it can't tell the difference between when you're being quiet on the outside but brewing on the inside, or when you're being brewing on the inside and exploding on the outside. Like, it knows those two things are very close, and it can't differentiate when one is going to happen or the other.
Right.
So a lot of it is that you actually had a lot of dysregulated energy inside of you that had nothing, even like, take our marriage out of it, which was very dysregulating for both of us.
Yeah.
But you just from your life, your nervous system was patterned to be dysregulated from your childhood.
I had hypervigilance. So to clarify that, my soul was in consistent hypervigilance. That meant I am assessing every situation as a threat.
Mm-hmm.
How much of a threat is it going to be? How many are people really safe? I'm constantly like, so I'm on edge. I'm burning out my adrenals as they're like, what's the threat? Where's the lions out there? When are they going to consume me?
Totally.
Yeah.
And because of always being, so your body learned to feel stress constantly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you had to actually train yourself outside of do we work? How is our marriage working? You have to train yourself. How do I get to peace?
Yeah.
How do I get my body to relax?
Yeah. What I know, this is what I want to say going back to this, is that my anxiety, whether or not it was expressed externally or it was carried internally, is an exhausting experience to have. That laughter is validation. Yeah. It's a feeling of feeling validated and attuned to. 100%. Isn't it?
Yes. I was like, yes, it has been. That is actually probably one of the things, and you've never said that to me before, which is delightful. But
You're
I think
welcome.
That's something I probably would have said for years, is the anxiety that is driving you feels really unsafe.
Yeah. I mean, like, I went through 3 years of you being a massive stress ball, and it was just chiseling away at my entire soul. I just could not take just being in the same space as you half the time.
Yeah.
And
then it made you realize what it's like being married to you.
Like, damn it. Well played.
Yeah.
Well played, Abby.
Yeah. That's true.
So anyways, that's mine.
Well, I love that.
One of them.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
Yeah.
That actually means a lot to me. And again, we have to learn how to feel our emotions and not let them consume us, and not let them and not avoid them. So like, you actually had to learn how to feel your anxiety and move through it, and not just have it trapped in your body all the time. And that process is what has enabled you to not get stuck in the emotions. And that is what our course is all about.
Ooh, got your list there.
I have my list. Do you want to go next, or do you just went? Okay.
Yeah.
One thing that I think I have done in this relationship, honestly, we probably both have, but we're taking ownership for our own thing.
Maybe I haven't. Let's just focus on you.
Okay. One thing that I have done in this relationship is have arrogance about doing all of the right things in a conflict without being regulated. So like, I might be saying all of the words I should say, but I'm not regulated when I'm saying them. So you can't feel safety, and you can't feel my heart, and you can't feel the connection. And so And there's a way where even my good intentions, like I might be like, no, this is the right thing to say. But then when it doesn't land with you, I have the arrogance of, I did everything right though. And learning about nervous systems makes you be like, I probably wasn't doing everything right.
Yeah.
What made you laugh so hard about this?
We shared earlier about reclaiming you. This next year, we're also kicking off an online membership called The Connection Cure. With The Connection Cure, you can get access to all of our courses and our online resources for one low price. Now, if you jump into Reclaiming You, you're going to get early access to The Connection Cure free with your purchase of Reclaiming You.
Yeah, so you'll get the Compassion Project, the Father Series, Living Fully Alive, Pathway to Freedom, and Relationship Glue, along with the thing I'm most excited about, our Regulation Library, which has over 70 guided regulation exercises for you to be able to start to retrain your nervous system to feel peace and connected to yourself.
Come join us January 11th, 2025 for Reclaiming You, and get on board for the Connection Cure.
Yeah. You get a bonus in the Connection Cure for as long as you're doing it.
I mean, like, now I understand why you laughed a minute ago. My soul's been tickled with joy. It's like, ooh, got my belly. Yeah, you have.
Yeah, you have. You can say it.
No, there's definitely been the arrogance inside of that, and sometimes it's felt like you're in the relationship, the emotional health guru that's doing it all right. And look, I've done all the right things. I've said all the right things in this moment, and
yeah.
And to be fair, on my side of stuff on that, I'm scanning for the realities of it. I don't know if I've had arrogance or not. I'm not saying I haven't. I think come to the same conclusion, her face says.
No, my face was laughing at the concept that you have no self-awareness.
No, but here's what it is. A lot of times I will push back and say something like, I have just said all the right things.
Yeah.
And it's not like me being like, I'm doing this all right. That like, that's not the heart posture on that. Maybe it has been at times. I'm not addressing that. I'm like, a lot of times I'm like, how am I not getting a win?
Right.
Like that's the emotion for me is like, I'm like, I just did all this and I did all this right, Abby. and it's really like, how am I not getting a win on this situation?
Yeah.
That's the feeling for me on it.
Yeah. And I think that we both, so that would make sense that that's what's going on inside of you. I think the concept is when you say all the right things, but you are not regulated. Yeah. It isn't the right thing. Yeah. Like the goal is not that you say the textbook right answer. The goal is actually that your nervous system creates a safe place for the other person's nervous system.
Let me add to that though, because I think that I want to clarify even on my end. I meant like oftentimes I will mean everything. I mean it. Yep. And I want to say that because it's not just a conversation and it's not just for us. I'm saying even for people listening.
I agree.
It's not just about I said all the right things. You can literally mean everything that you're saying and you can be in a dysregulated place and it's not landing even though and for me a lot of times that's where my anxiety would go higher. I'm like, I mean everything that I'm saying and none of this shit is landing for you. Yes. Or this isn't working out and I meant everything. But I also had myself connected to a heart posture of tenderness and patience and peace inside of me and kindness inside of me as I'm doing it. Yeah. But that also feels out of control. And what I mean by that is like, I think a lot of us can all be doing our best to do all the right things.
100%.
And our insides are such a swirl. The dysregulation is such a swirl. Absolutely. It's a mix of all kinds of triggered responses and stuff like that. And you're doing the work to actually still choose love past your dysregulation 100%. That is currently existing.
Yes. And that still matters.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it can feel like it doesn't matter though. Yeah. And I'm not saying that to as a dig at you. I'm just saying that it can feel as though from another partner, it's like, that doesn't matter. I don't believe it. And just to know, like, it matters. You're doing the work inside of it. And the fact that you're choosing into wanting to express yourself in these ways, regardless of the dysregulation inside, that means that you are at least fighting the monster within.
100%. And you fighting the monster within so many times gave you the ability to then, when you added regulation to it, to already have the muscle. Yeah. Because you would apologize. So you spent years apologizing. It wasn't the most regulated situation. But then when you learned to regulate, you'd already built the muscle of apologizing. Yeah. So it actually made it easier to do. And I think, and this is so easy to do. Learn how to regulate your nervous system inside of interpersonal relationships. Like it's not easy, but when you focus your attention on learning how to nurture your own nervous system and take care of you, and somebody else is doing the same, it just is so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to go back and take, some ownership over here. I kind of touched on it earlier, but the tone and the pacing. A lot of times I have verbally communicated through a tone and a pacing that would actually jack up a nervous system.
I love you. Thanks for saying that.
That it would cause you to brace. Like we had somebody in our world who they had no capacity to regulate their nervous system. Yeah. I'll put it that way. And it was so intense that even on their best days, just their tone and their pacing and the energy at which they would dialogue about situations.
Felt overwhelming.
It could have been politics. It could have been, talking about a project, whatever it was. My whole being was like, I can't take it. I can't take it. I can't be around you. You're actually pushing me away from you. I want to get away from you as fast as possible. So I know that there's ways that would have been torturous to you, because I could be very chill. There's an aspect of me where I was just really chill and just like, okay, whatever. And then you'd get me on something that would dysregulate me, and my tone and my pacing would go up in how I would talk about the issues.
Oh, it could be the car driving in front of us was not driving in a way that you liked. And now your tone and pacing was really intense.
Yeah. Yeah. To all those cars out there that didn't drive the way I like. Screw you. Yeah. So I know that, again, that would create a sense of exhaustion. That would create guards where you'd want to be self-protective and be like, I just can't do this. I don't want to be around this.
Yeah.
And it wasn't conducive to producing peace inside of the relationship.
And it's really impossible. And a lot of relationships don't realize this, because we've yelled and we've cussed and we've thrown and stuff all over, and but a lot of couples don't realize that when there is that intensity, it automatically sends your body into threat.
Yeah. And I think that even people listening right now, like it's probably convicting for some of you. Like, you're hearing it and you're going, yeah, I have an intense tone. Like, it's hard, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that have heard things like, you're really intense, and like, people think I'm intense or whatever. And I'm like, well, your world's telling you that they experience you as intense. Instead of being defensive, sit down, go look yourself in the mirror and go, all right, even if I don't believe I'm intense, how am I impacting the nervous system of the world around me? Because there's places for me to go unload that, and it's not in this relationship.
Totally. Yeah, you can go punch that punching bag when I'm not in the house.
I can go have those types of conversations with certain individuals that understand that with me. And so for those of you who are just joining us, we've been in the emotional health field for 15 years now. We've had over 4,000 clients, and we've had over 10,000 people take our courses. And the cool thing is that in that whole process, we've actually had thousands of people tell us that taking our courses has radically transformed their lives, their relationships. And the reality is, it's not just because of the information, it's because of the community aspect. And that's what's so cool and unique about Reclaiming You. It's 14 weeks of live community experience that you're going to have when you join us for that. So come join us.
I'll do one. One of the things that I didn't, until I understood being dysregulated and regulated and how our nervous system states work, I might be in a situation at work where I'm in fight or flight. The energy I'm coming back from is in fight or flight. And so I come home and you can feel me in that energy, which isn't inherently bad. But then if something happens, something minuscule between us, that intensity, it's like the folder that is open from that day. I can see your eyes are already so happy.
I had such a slow growing smile. I was like, manage
People
yourself,
should really
bro.
watch this episode, because your facial expression.
Ben, edit that expression in as she says it.
Yeah. So I could easily take the intensity so our nervous system gets stuck in a state of alert or of threat or of self-protection. And then if you just say the wrong thing, or what, it could just the wrong little thing, it's not even a big thing. I used to take all of what was happening in my body from the day and aim it towards you. And I didn't know, I'm actually, this energy inside my body, this energy of intensity, it is looking for a release. So that's one of the things that we'll teach about is most of the time when we have a some kind of behavior that isn't what we wanted it to be, it's because there was an energy going on in our body and we didn't know how to deal with it. And so instead of, there's lots of ways that we'll teach people how to move through it and what to do with that energy. Instead of knowing a productive thing to do with that energy, most people just take it out on whatever thing happens to hit it at that moment. Or they take it out, they use addiction to try to deal with the energy, or they, like, oh, I need to go online shop to try to soothe the thing inside of me that isn't feeling good, or, oh, I need to go get drunk to soothe these feelings. And so we do a lot of behavior to soothe the uncomfortable feelings we're having in our body. Most of us aren't even aware that there's a feeling happening in our body, but we're doing that to soothe it instead of actually being able to have tools to just connect and take care of yourself and move through it. And you have experienced me aim that folder towards you. How's that feel?
Drinking that one in.
Yeah.
I think that is one that I've communicated for a lot of years of. It feels like, I mean, I've used the language, I feel like I'm a punching bag on the back end of a bad day.
Yeah. Oh, that's a really good, I mean, it describes it well. It's not a good thing that you went through, but
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of couples have that happen.
Mm-hmm.
That's not unique to us.
Yeah.
It's that I've had a bad day. I come home and the kids, maybe one of the kids does a little something off, or the partner does something off. And then it's just like, bam, I'm going to unload this energy that direction. And so I was always, I oftentimes felt braced.
Yeah.
Like, oh, she's come in and she's already been saying like her day was rough, and she starts going into it. And I'm like, when is this going to turn on me? And eventually it did, whether my anxiety perpetuated that, or something I said perpetuated that, or is just, you were just looking for whatever it was that would be a reason to unload in the safety of our relationship.
Yep.
But I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
It's very helpful.
And I've really worked at listening to it now. And part of this, it's not that I now never do that. It's that Justin can say something and now it connects for me. So he'll say, it feels like you had a lot of intensity from that phone call. I'm scared that that's going to come out towards me. And I'll recognize it and be like, yes, because that is a thing that happens. Yeah. So I need to go deal with those emotions. And you need tools and practices to help you actually have a healthy relationship with your emotions, where you're not throwing them in the trunk, but you're not letting them drive your car. We're going to give you those in January.
That's really good. Another one for me is anger and powerlessness. So, in my anger and my powerlessness, when I get gotten dysregulated in the past with it, all of a sudden that would turn into very sharp edges of communication. So there wasn't kindness. It was like, just do this. Stop that. Knock that off. And it would be these cutting ways of communicating. And I remember I was processing with Barry, and I was like, nothing I do works. Like, I feel so and this was the powerless emotion. And then the anger they would come join each other. I'm feeling powerless. Now my powerless turns into, I am so effing pissed and I don't know what to do. And Barry was like, how about you use kindness? I was like, well, Barry, that's bullshit. Kindness ain't going to change the situation. I've tried to do everything possible, and this person is just out of control on their side. And, he was like, so you're going to be out of control on your side? And he was like, who do you want to be? What is your value system? And I was like, I do want to be kind. Yeah. Like, that's an expression of love that I want. But I had to begin to shift and be like, how do I be kind to communicate my needs inside of this experience? I think there's a lot of us that we don't know how to communicate our needs or don't feel like our needs are being met, even when we do communicate them or whatever that happens. And suddenly we go into feeling powerless inside of an experience. And then we get hit our frustration and our anger buttons. And then we become porcupines and we don't become soft landing places. And we exit out of vulnerability. So I lacked vulnerable conversations. The vulnerable conversations felt especially scary to sit down and say, hey, let me tell you about me and how I feel impacted by this behavior from a place of kindness. It was, I'm going to let you know that this doesn't work for me. And this was subconscious, right? But I'm going to let you know that this doesn't work for me anymore by being intense, like harsh inside of my responses. And you're going to get the clue finally at some point. And that was something that I learned on construction sites. I learned within the work environment of the masculine work environment, where it's just like somebody throws a fucking hammer across the room and they're not happy, and like
back off.
Like you've hit the limit with that person, and now you're like, yes sir, no sir, okay sir, whatever. Like you've just entered into sir language versus like jacking around on the job site.
Right.
And you've now changed how you show up. So you get programmed within that space. You push until someone snaps. Now you see the snapping point and you realize you have to reel it back.
Yeah.
And that's terrible ways of communicating. It lacks any sense of respect. And I'm sorry for where my powerlessness and my anger turned into disrespect towards you and would cause you to shut down. It wouldn't cause you to want to partner more with me or collaborate. You're like, oh, this person's just pissed off. I don't want to be controlled by their anger. I don't even want to participate with them right now inside of this. So I perpetuated more problems for myself approaching like that versus kindness and vulnerability.
Yeah. And I think that there's several thoughts I had when you were sharing, which is when you do something like on the job site, you could like say something loud or abrasive.
Correct.
And people would be like, okay, we're going to back off. But in a relationship, when you say something loud or abrasive, it causes fear for the other person. And if you think about the nervous system as like a bank account, the healthiest relationships have a lot of safety in their bank account.
Yeah.
And so every time you do something that causes fear or threat for the other person, it takes away safety from the bank account. So when you're getting loud or abrasive, it's just taking safety out of our bank account, which that bank account ends up affecting you.
Yeah.
Because when that bank account is low on safety, I'm more of a threat. And that's what a bad dance is when we start making withdrawals, each of us, of safety from the relationship. And then we're both feeling the bankruptcy. And so we can't go. I was also thinking,
I declare bankruptcy. Michael Scott it.
I was also thinking about how when you were describing it and the short, like, let's just not do this. Let's da 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 da. I was like, so much of that was you feeling anxiety or an emotion, an energy of emotion coming up inside of you, and you trying to shut it down before it could take over you.
Yeah, I was trying to solve I was trying to resolve the escalation before it got too big. So I would quickly try to I would quickly try to pivot the relational experience we were having as fast as possible, with a sense of intensity that only perpetuated more problems.
Yes.
So I'd be like, all right, it's fine. We're done. Let's just move on from this and let's just do this differently. Okay, it's fine. And it would be like trying to cut you off. And you're like, you're cutting me off. This isn't resolving it. And I'm like, I'm trying to stop myself from exploding. Let's just move on. And you're like, we're not moving on now. We are going to sit down right here and have a powwow. And I'm like, oh my God, what is happening?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden that aggression and just that bad dance evolved all of a sudden.
Well, should we do a part 2? Because I have more to say and we want to talk about regulating, but we are at time.
I don't know if we have enough for a part 2.
But I feel like we have at least 20 more minutes for this one, and that feels overwhelming. So let's just, we'll do another conversation about how we learned to regulate more and what we do. I think there's enough because we can talk through what we do to regulate when we get dysregulated now in our relationship. And we can cover, because there's there is one or two that I want to validate you on that I think
on air.
Your face.
The public has heard it.
The public has heard it. I thought this was fun.
I did too. I appreciate your regulated approach.
Yeah, we both stayed regulated this whole conversation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Feeling your joy in the midst of the seriousness, that's been really good for me inside of this.
Yeah.
It feels like a really good relational exchange. Mm-hmm. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the laughter. I like laughter and talking about difficult things and stuff like that. So if you haven't gone to YouTube yet, please go there, subscribe to it, hit the bell button, and share this. It's you getting to sharing this with other people and getting it out there that actually helps heal the world. We do all this to actually bring healing and restoration to the world around us. Mm-hmm. So give people the gift of healing by just passing on the episode.
Yeah. Free episodes.
Man, I'm looking forward to the next episode. Ooh. I want to get more validation from you.
All right. Bye.
Peace out.